pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, so now this does feel awkward to have you all the way back there and us all the way up here. But
The have and have-nots.
pardon?
The have and have-nots.
The haves and the whatever.
Not saying who's
That's
is what.
debatable who's
Right,
okay.
exactly.
Okay, so welcome everyone. We have some money on the line tonight in terms of the length of this meeting. So I'm going to move this along really quick. Just kidding, just kidding. We have some major decisions to make, and tonight we were hoping more community members would come. But for those of you that might be watching, we welcome your input. Feel free to give us a call after this meeting if you would like to share some of your ideas or opinions on what we're working on here. So we'll start with the facility planning and costing upgrade. And the reason I asked for that to be on the agenda is because in the survey, the numbers have changed slightly. And so I would like to get a presentation from Matt about what's changed and why. Maybe you could come right up here, Matt. And then we'll also look again briefly at the timeline for the building proposals, just to remind ourselves, especially me, to make sure we get these on the agenda in a timely way. So give us an update on what's going on with the facilities planning and costing.
I'll start with Hales Corners Elementary. The administrative team met with Epstein Ewan and one of their I'll call school specialist, Bob, school planner. And what the principals did is they sat down with, I think it was Bob Morris, and we mapped out what the middle school would look like with the addition. And so we just went with all the sections that we needed to finish the addition and how the students would be flowing through the school, and came up with a new square footage and a new building size. We ended up having to add space because we realized in the initial drawings we were lacking enough classroom space to house all the students that we would need to in that building. And so because of that, the changes to the middle school elementary addition increased.
Drastically.
Drastically.
that
We added
option
quite a
three?
bit of square footage.
I'm sorry, which option?
We don't actually have this.
It's in one of the, it's in the survey.
It's in the survey,
Right,
but we
I
don't have
know.
all the detail.
We didn't, that was one of our options originally, wasn't it?
The
It was one of
middle
our
school,
options,
the
but
middle
The
school.
price was 10 million is what we told, I was
Right,
told
that's what I
prior.
was trying.
Correct, that is
Now it's
correct.
17?
To 19.
Here it is, here it is, here it is, yeah.
And does that include the cost of adding the classrooms to Edgerton and reconfiguring Edgerton? Or is that 19 plus what it would cost to reconfigure Edgerton?
At this time, I don't think, well, go ahead, but Edgerton, I believe, is considered in this number, but I don't have a specific drawing for that building because the way the building is going to be loaded with the students, the current layout of the building will work. So no addition, not much additional remodeling outside of maybe adjoining classrooms might need to be done at Edgerton.
And then my follow-up question to that is that in the survey, it said that K-4 would be housed at Edgerton. When we had the discussion in the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, we were talking of putting K-4 over at the high school. So how does that figure in? Because that just puts more bodies at Edgerton than what we had originally discussed. So those are two of my questions.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know if you want to speak to the
I
K-4.
recall during this very same conversation that we had looked at moving K-4 back into Edgerton, all K-4, all kindergarten, all first grade, and then 2 through 5 at the middle school, which was another reason why there was an increase there. But all of the K-4, all of the K-5, all of the first grade would all fit within the number of classrooms that are at it, without having to add. And that was the rationale, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so there wasn't an extra 2 classrooms needed?
That was if K-4 was going to be off-site, and kindergarten, first and second grade were going to be
Right.
at it.
So now you're moving second to the middle school, which we won't have to add to Edgerton because of that.
Correct.
Correct.
And K-4 back to Edgerton.
Is that
Correct.
what you
Great.
meant?
And early childhood would be still at, it would be at Edgerton.
I think that parents are going to have a lot more comfort in that than it being at Edgerton as opposed to the high school. even though I
yeah.
think the high school kids would really step up,
Benefit.
but I think parents are gonna feel a lot more comfortable in that setting at Edgerton for the K-4s.
Looks like Lori had something.
No, I just wanted to
Okay.
know that the Whitnall School District Early Childhood and the K4, K5. One.
And the other two big elements, besides the classrooms, the 8 classrooms that were added to the plan, was the gym / cafeteria space was another big element added to the plan.
So are they separate entities?
Yes.
Now that you say slash,
The,
we're not,
the addition would have its
They're
own
not.
cafeteria, so there would not be a shared.
and its
cafeteria.
own gymnasium?
Yes.
Nope, they are one and the same.
One and the
Oh, one and the
same.
Well,
same.
that's what you just said,
Oh,
slash.
yeah, cafetorium.
Yeah, so
One and
dual
the same.
purpose.
So for,
For how many kids? Sorry.
okay,
640 was the number that we were
we-
shooting for.
I mean, I guess that's what we have at Edgerton right now, is
650
cafeteria slash.
650 to
right?
700 is what is in the survey.
What's
So I
there?
would stick with those numbers.
But that's not what
We-
we have at HCE. HCE has a special gym, and I thought I had heard at some point in time that there was, I mean, I know we're not doing every, you know, how can I say this? I don't know if it's the same amount of students, but I thought there was some, I thought it was a little bit of scheduling tightness with trying to get all the students in one gym. Is that right,
So what we
Eddie?
do with the auxiliary gym, the second gym, we both have a second smaller gym. We generally have the kindergarten have their FIAD time in that smaller gym during the time when the main gym is being cleaned after lunch. So after the lunch period, we need about 45 minutes to an hour of cleaning, and then FIAD is back up in that gym, that cafeteria gym. So that's what we use our auxiliary gym for. If you had something like this in the middle school, I would imagine you'd probably be looking for some gym time in the middle school for the cleanup of that cafeteria.
Right, and the middle school has 2 gym already, so 2
But
gyms.
really, that's the only time, other than for special events, where we use that auxiliary gym. It's an underutilized space at Edgerton. I don't know about this.
We don't use it, we have all of our FIAD in the big gym, except for special use on TV, because that's simultaneous to the gym classes. But the small gym serves as the cafeteria, and so there isn't any, we can FIAD literally all day in the big gym, because it's not used for setup, taking on for any other activities, other than an occasional big event, something that might be there.
So has administration mapped out the time, like how many, how many gym classes and the number of times to make sure that
Not- not-
one?
not-
Because
not
I can't
that
see
level.
I can't see a gym being used at lunch fitting
Right,
all the
the
classes.
actual programming of the space hasn't been.
Well, how do you
work on-
know
the work
that's
on that
enough?
hasn't started.
How do you know that a gym / cafeteria design will work and you have enough slots or places to put all the gym classes without mapping it out? That's what I'm not sure. I'm worried about that. I don't know if it's gonna work.
I think Lil's got a solution.
Well, not a solution, but I had 725 elementary kids with one gym, and we didn't have a scheduling problem. We did have a cafeteria that could double as a gym, but we just used that when we did inside recess.
The gym the square footage that's included is a 2-station gym. So it is a fairly, it's a larger gym than what Hell's Corners has right now. So you could divide it and have lunch on one side of the gym and still have a gym class on the other side.
And I think, Mark, you should clarify what you mean by 2-station.
Yeah, a 2-station gym just means 2 basketball courts. You can have 2 teams or 4 teams playing with a divider in the middle. A full court, regular high school size gym could use the whole gym, essentially.
I mean,
That'd be
I
pretty close to
don't,
the
if
size
it
of
works
high
for the
school.
principals, I'm fine, but I would say let's make sure it works for for the principals, that they feel that that this design works. I mean,
Right, and that
Yeah.
level of programming and detail.
I think
follow.
I think generally we're all comfortable with with the size of the gym that's in the square footage right now. And if anything, it would be dialed back as we got into the process
When you
further.
say,
And then the
when you say
size.
we, would that mean you guys have looked at these plans?
In
Lori,
fact, they
have
were
you looked at
instrumental to
these?
putting the floor plans together.
You guys were all part of this planning?
Part,
Lori, yeah?
the last meeting we were at, I think this,
Lynn? Did Lynn get a chance to look into it?
Because it's not size as much as
Logistics?
logistics, you know, I mean, you can have this big space that's only half used, I mean, and like, I can't see people playing basketball and having lunch tables on the other side, and the noise, I mean, the noise levels, it just seems like that would be insane.
In that situation, I don't think we would be having gym while lunch is going on,
Yeah,
but you could have gym immediately after lunch because you're cleaning one side.
okay,
and
that,
the other side.
yeah, so that opens up another, okay, that makes sense. Like I said, it doesn't matter to me, as long as the principals think that this will fit their schedule, that, you know, that's all
That
that
particular
matters.
gym would be twice the size of Edgerton's current gym, and Edgerton right now is 407. About that, right? Because we have basically a one.
Hang on one second.
gym.
What, he was asking you guys a question.
I'm asking that question, is it about double?
It's about the size of the high school gym now, the current high school gym that we have now,
Okay,
The new
that's
gym.
big.
the new gym.
So I want to make sure the board's comfortable with that change, because it was so much less when we started looking at that option. I want to make sure you're all
Well,
comfortable.
it went from a great option to,
To
why
not
are
so
we doing
great,
it?
right.
In my opinion,
Do we, because now it's the same price as renovating.
no, it's building new.
No, as
No,
renovating.
building new's still a little bit more,
it's a
Well,
metal.
but it's
it's a-
not that much.
it's-
Yeah, but wait, when you
Yeah,
look.
it's actually
yeah,
more expensive than renovating.
Yeah,
If I could just add too, remember with our last discussion, the discussion I believe that we heard from the board as well is we're not going to even consider an option unless it has its own facility.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why,
We did say that.
another reason why
So-
that was added in.
But we said that because we really felt that there was that,
And there-
the need, and then you can't compare apples, you gotta compare
Okay.
apples to apples for space.
So by doing that now, we have up, go
Right, and
ahead.
when we met, we agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're also, we were looking at, you know, enough classroom space, and enough meeting space, and. you know,
No,
all
special
of those things.
Okay.
special education
So here's
space.
the question, I hate to do this, but do we want to stick with having that as an option, or do we want to pull it off the table because it doesn't make sense to us anymore?
Well,
I just want to go
Well, we
around and
are-
get, like,
Oh, I
everybody's
suppose.
opinion on that,
I don't know
to
how you
make sure we're
can,
comfortable with
I don't
it.
know how you can say it wouldn't meet our needs anymore, because some of the benefits of having that campus option still exist.
Yeah, maybe I didn't use the right
So-
language, maybe we're not comfortable with it.
That's
Go
one
ahead.
point, and I have faith in everyone here that when we asked for the addition of a gym and cafeteria space that would be dedicated to the grades 2 through 5, I doubt that anyone here didn't think that the price would change.
Okay.
So I would be very cautious in just completely pulling it off the table based on price tag alone, because
Yeah.
then I don't know that we're really paying attention to the needs of the students either by
wanna make
taking that
sure.
option off.
and I think we need to let the people decide
Yeah.
that.
And
It's a good option, there's no doubt, I just, the price,
Wanna make sure.
the ticket, yeah, no
And
doubt.
then we're going to have to answer questions if they come up, so we got to know what's going on.
I'm okay with offering the
Leaving it
different, I
in?
think leaving
Okay.
the different options, it's a good time to talk about that.
And Jonathan?
I think we need to keep it as an option.
Okay.
When they do the pricing, they're very, very, very conservative. They never want to come in and say a number and then have it be more expensive. So to make sure that doesn't happen, this number is predicted up here. And what was, most of you sat in on when we did the field renovations and the water control, and that was a several $1 million swing just on that amount. So you can see how that, if we are, you know, when we really look at the project and we're down deeper, there's a good opportunity to make it less. However, when you take it to the community, you want to be on the safe side, and that's, Epstein UN is a conservative group that the last thing they want to do is, again, you can imagine how upset the community would be if you said it's going to be 15 and it ended up being 16. So,
And we did have lively discussions and debates regarding these numbers before getting the survey to you, because we were also a little surprised by that increase.
I think going out to survey, getting a focus of one of the approaches and doing a little more homework after that's decided by all of you, then you start dialing in to the number in the scope in the program.
What has been your experience with the number that you've given and the real number at the end?
As long as it's built within the timeline, generally it's not too far off. I mean, the numbers that you're seeing are based on 2017 pricing, so if it was built in the year 2017, so
And it's all by square footage?
just by square footage at this point, very conceptual level.
If it is approved in April, wouldn't it be built in 15, 16?
It would, you'd probably be looking more at the end of 2015, which would probably incur 2016 pricing.
Okay, but you said you priced this at 2017.
It is.
So what's the percentage lower for 15, 16?
It was all figured at 3% per year. So the price was figured out at 2014 pricing and 3% per year. So at 2017, it's compounded by 3% per year. The caution there is, over the last few years, and fairly recently, we may be seeing 5%. So.
So I had a question on the renovation option as well, because remember, we had a range of renovation options. So did this get narrowed into one renovation option now?
It is based on the most intense scope. Right.
The one that really took it all
Option
apart?
4 or 5?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, because
It
even,
actually hacks off some of the building and
that even went up then, because the most expensive one we originally looked at was 15.
I believe that's because of that escalator, that 3%, as far as this number.
I think we were just trying to give a range. We didn't want to dial in
Right.
one number. We wanted to, so if you look at the middle number, that would have been the number, and that includes the range then.
Well, what I like about that is at least now we're getting closer to comparing apples to apples with these plans, because that should include the learning environment needs to the degree that we can.
Right.
So that
Absolutely,
it's not anywhere near a new school, but it'll address a lot of what a new school would.
Right. If you compare a program
Yeah.
in either one of these options, they're going to be very similar. The community should
Appreciate
be
that.
able to compare them.
The programs, but the class size, building size, classroom size.
Right.
You got to get that one just right. Classroom size might still be a little bit compromised if we renovate versus build new.
Yeah, there are
But
portions
you
of it.
cannot, right.
There's portions of the building that remain, but
Right.
there are going to be new spaces too that will have a different classroom size, so.
Anyone have any other questions on the new numbers? Then we can get into the,
Do we have any type of plan design or cost estimate for the campus option with the new numbers in it that we can update what we have?
Plan design for the elementary addition to the middle school? Is that the one you're referring to? So,
For our notebooks,
I mean,
right?
a sheet that would be inserted into the plan.
Mm-hmm. right.
Oh, as far as.
We should have we should update our facility book now at the next committee meeting, so that we have all the new plans.
It may be updated.
Yes,
Yes.
so,
That is available.
That is available. Yep.
thank you. May we have it by Kathy, November, what did we figure, 17th?
17th is finance.
Could we have
With
those ready to
maybe some
go?
updated
Yeah,
spreadsheets and everything too. That would be great.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's,
Your
yes.
members would have to bring their book, though.
Yes, they would.
I
That is
might
correct.
err on the side of leaving it
There
here
you go.
tonight. So don't forget. Okay, that's great. Any other questions on facility updates?
Well, yes. The, the recouping, if we took the option to do it at the middle school, we don't have any forecast for what that property would fetch us.
No.
From the sale of the old one?
Mm-hmm.
We have not done an appraisal on that site yet.
Okay.
All right.
That's something that, you know, if the board would entertain that, I think we could find, you know, get you some pricing on what an appraisal would maybe cost.
Well, I mean, if it comes back that people like that idea, we're gonna need it.
Mhm.
I mean, I would think that we would, I mean, I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, I
Would we
know.
use that money
We
to
would
defer the
never need
cost,
that.
or we would be bring that
Right.
money into and put
Right.
in our fund balance? I don't know.
That
But it would,
could-
it's a piece of the pie.
It is. So hold that thought for when we get to the survey, because I don't believe that's noted in the survey.
Not.
No, it's not.
And yeah, we could add that. Okay, just a brief, any other questions?
I don't know, just
the-
on that point, I don't know if we waited for the appraisal
No, I'm not
for
asking
me.
for that.
Oh, okay, that's what you're asking.
We're just saying it's a benefit.
Okay, yes.
No, we're not asking for specific
No.
numbers. You got those little bullet points with each survey question, and one of them you might add is, if you think it's significant enough to even note, that the district would benefit from the sale.
Wait till we get to the survey.
Survey, right, and we'll discuss it at that point.
Okay.
All right. Next up is the timeline. Thank you for the detailed timeline on the survey. I also just want us to keep in mind what the deadline we're pushing up against, which I believe you all have seen this. At some point, the one that's really simple, but what it does tell us,
Did we, or maybe
If
you gave
not,
them
we'll-
out of finance and facilities?
they may not have, but we'll email this out to you all, so you know that maybe Kathy could make sure we all get that.
Because we have that date.
We have that date. It's a
But
dra- it's a
this
dra-
looks better.
I know, I like this, yeah, I know, I like this a lot. The drop dead date for us to get it on an April referendum is, the resolution has to be adopted by January 24th, and actually a couple days before, so you can get it to the clerks. So I'm just saying, if we're gonna get anything out to the public, we are on a tight timeline, and I wanna make sure that we know then as a board, when this data comes back in December, we have roughly a month to make the final decision on what we're going to do.
Da, 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 da.
Just saying. Do your homework, bring your notebooks.
You're saying extra meetings is what you're,
Facility committee, get ready.
veiled threat there.
There goes the Christmas party out the window, we're gonna be working. So but we do have to meet these deadlines. And the other reason that's important, I wanna remember, we don't have any fall election, and state law does not allow us to come back out. It would have to be not until the following year in February, in 2015.
What does state law say?
2016.
You could do it, we'd have to pay for it.
You can do it. You're allowed
You just
to,
have to
right
pay for it.
now, current law allows you to have a special election, but
You
have.
could.
Yes, but you
Oh.
have to pay 100% of the costs.
Okay, so that's
So
the
that
deal.
means if there's
Right.
nothing else on the ballot, the district pays for every hour of staffing that the clerk's office spends, every polling place staffing, every piece of paper, printing, advertising, everything that goes into running an election. You-
Okay.
Instead of getting a portion of the cost when you put something on the ballot during a regular election, you pay all of it. So it's
So
just something you
keep that in
typically would think
mind.
about.
Yeah, keeping that in mind, but I think we can meet this deadline. So thank you for all the work you're doing, everyone, to help us move that along.
And I think that's a good
Any
point
other-
that you brought up too, just so if people in the community are wondering, well, why are we pushing to try to put this on April and not wait till the fall? Well, there isn't an election this fall, so it's
And it'll cost a
April, or
lot more
it'll cost a
money.
lot more money, or we
to do it.
keep pushing this back. So that's important for everybody.
It
For
also
us to
goes-
know.
Also goes to the timing and dollars and why the 17 has validity, because if for whatever reason, you put out this community-wide survey in the next few weeks and people are gonna see these options, they're gonna see these numbers. And then if for whatever reason you decide you're not ready to go this April, maybe the survey response tells us you're not quite ready, people are still gonna remember those numbers. So if you don't come back you can't come back until the spring of 16, as Mark said, your timeline is gonna push you into construction in 17. So it's always better to have that little bit of a buffer, and then once you know when you're going and what your scope is, the number gets refined and focused. So it's just something to keep in mind this early when you're putting out information. You want it to be accurate and not just project today, but to give yourself some coverage.
All right, so Stephanie will keep the facility committee moving forward, and I'll help with the board moving forward, and we'll be ready, I hope. All right, thank you. Next would be the review of applied population study proposal. In light of the survey, Dr. Holtz asked me, we had talked at the facility committee, I believe, about moving forward with this applied study. but I'm not sure we need to spend another 3,000. I wanted to make sure we still wanted to move ahead with that. So you got a chance to read the proposal. It would cost us another $3,000 to get more accurate projections. Do you want to tell us more about this?
The Applied Population Lab, actually Kit's worked with them in the past as well, but they do a lot more in-depth with historical data, and then they'll use the census data, and then they'll project building and, you know, what kind of residential housing you'll have in your area over the next 10 years, and they'll give you 4 scenarios. And then, so basically you get a range camp. They don't nail it down and say in 2019 you're going to have 2,178 kids. They'll give you a range. But it does kind of tell you whether they're projecting the enrollment to be stable or decline or increase. And the only concern I had was, this is a popular time of year to do it. The soonest we get it back would be the end of December. So.
Yeah, it says in here 6 to 8 weeks after receiving the school enrollment. Would that be the September?
Yeah, and in my email from her, she's not able to promise an exact date, but she should be able to have a final report to me by the end of that calendar year.
Okay, question.
Well, are we putting the horse before the cart here? Meaning, we don't know what the public is going to say in the survey. Wouldn't we wait till after that survey to see? I mean, maybe they just tell us to go to, you know, where, and they're good with what the facilities are, and be on our way. I don't know.
I don't mind waiting. One of the premise on which we had prompted this was that if we built capacity into a brand new elementary school, that we were making sure that we weren't trying to build a bigger school than what we were going to need. And the only way to figure that one out would be to, well, not the only way, but one of the best ways to figure it out would be to do one of the population studies. And point taken, if that's not what the public decides, then no, then let's not spend the money right now. But let's do it if that's the option, then that we make sure that we've got the right amount of capacity in the building for what we may have. So
Well, the
I'm
other
fine
thing-
delaying.
The other thing is, we can control our capacity with open enrollment. So I'm not sure why we would spend this $3,000 at this point,
So
when we
okay,
can
wait.
control our enrollment.
You can also do a good job of projecting it yourself through historical data. And one of the items when I present on the status of the district next month, I think it is, I forgot when we put it on, but would be the population trend over the past decade. You know, so you can see how it's really been pretty stable. You know, we did have some peaks, but it's been pretty stable.
What about the communities? Do they have anything planned? I thought, well, they do it every like 10 years. You know, I don't know. I mean, do they have any planning?
The U.S. Census does it every 10 years.
Yeah, but do they have anything in the different communities, like Greenfield, the two biggest, you know?
See, in one our size, we're so driven by what kind of housing goes in. You know, if they put in housing that's even, you know, rentals that are affordable, and they're 2-3 bedrooms, you're going to get a lot of kids. If they're high-end housing, you know, that are more condos, then our student population is going to go down, because the people that typically buy that demographically are the more 45, 55 type of individual. So
Glad you didn't say older.
Me too.
I am in that.
I guess it'll be no surprise that this would be something that I think I'd want to see, because it's a small dollar amount in relationship to what we're looking to spend in a new school. But I agree we could wait till after the survey, but I
Why
don't
don't we
know.
wait?
I just feel like it's a small amount for such a big thing that we're doing, but
Can I just make a comment about the timing? The one thing to keep in mind is that it's a 6 to 8 week turnaround from the time that you request the study to take place. So if you wait until December, you won't have that data back until February at some point. And so if the community says, hey, at this point, let's look at building a new HCE, that data that we need won't be available until after you've approved the resolution. So if it was available to you in December, it would kind of come together at the same time that the survey data would be back. So we would know what applied population was saying about your projections. And if there's data from that, that could inform the program and the scope of a new school, or even an additional, expansion, whatever the solution is, and that could be incorporated into the program design. So I just don't want to see a delay there, because your decisions will need to be made if April of 15 is when you would be moving forward. You wouldn't get the data back from them until after you've made those decisions. The size of the building, the scope, the total budget would be set, because that's what you have to adopt. So I just don't want you to be in a position where you get a survey back, it says, hey, there is support for this, we should keep exploring it, and now we're essentially making assumptions on the growth rate. And for what it's worth, a lot of times districts, even if they're not talking about new construction, use the applied population just as the third-party objective resource on that topic to put on the website and be able to say, we have this study done independently, and it's there for your review and data. So it's just something to think about from a timing perspective. If you waited till December, if that option is still in flux, it wouldn't be able to inform the program development for the new school.
Well, I go back to last school board meeting, the 10-year third Friday count. And like Dr. Holt says, we're pretty consistent. I mean, if you look at this,
And we can control, it's not like we're a district that could grow out of this. We're landlocked.
Mhm.
We're landlocked. So I know there's going to be some fluctuation. Lori, you had a
Well, I just also think it would help us with open enrollment projections, which we have to always start to predict in like December and January, so that we don't give away too many seats, or, we can always let more in if we put some numbers out there, but sometimes we end up maybe with too many seats and then we don't get them thrown.
I know districts do use it for that.
So it might just help us have be a little more precise in open enrollment and 220.
Well, how long is the data good for? Isn't it?
About 10 years.
This would give us
Oh,
information.
10 years. It goes out 10 years, excuse me.
It goes
Push
out
forward 10 years, yeah.
forward 10 years.
I see most districts tend to do them when they're doing facility planning, something like this substance every couple of years. And for example, if we were just to use the old report, it would be as strong.
I think Lori's point is good, but we're not doing it. We don't necessarily need it for capacity issues, but it helps us control open enrollment. We control our capacity through the seats, correct? So sometimes we don't always hit that as well as we could.
No, I'm not saying we don't, but I'm just saying that it might just be helpful. More information is helpful. I mean, I know you're doing a dollar amount, but it seems like a reasonable investment in that knowledge.
I think the other benefit of population, in addition to looking at your historical trends, is they do. I mean, you guys can do that. You're right. You don't really need them to do that. You know how to do that. I'm sure Doug, you could do the basic cohort survival and the tracking of the classrooms, but it's the integration of the data they get from the municipalities about their various smart growth plans and anything that's happening with housing, all those things that helps become another variable in the trend analysis. But it's really what you're comfortable with. But from a timing perspective, I just wanted you to make sure you were thinking about that, because if that new school is in play, we want to make sure that we're really comfortable with what the capacity is and addressing it.
Jonathan, what are your thoughts, and then I'll come back.
Go on with that.
What are your thoughts?
I think it makes sense to do. I think 3,000, when you're talking about a $20 million project in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense. Because if we're going to have to debate why we need a larger school, why we need more seating, why we need larger classrooms based on school size, I think having as much data as possible helps to build that case.
I want to clarify, maybe you didn't say this, but we're not looking to add space. This isn't about growth. This referendum, this is all about upgrades and,
from old to new.
right. So we're not looking to have to add because our numbers are going
Or
up.
we're looking to
I just want to clarify
increase
that.
classroom sizes, and it may help to.
Square footage.
Classroom. Okay, square footage, not the
Yes.
number of classrooms. Okay, I just wanted to
So I
clarify.
say classroom size.
Yeah.
And some of it's increasing that, so this could help explain why we're doing that.
we could find out in something like this that there is a lot of houses, you know, we do have an elderly population, that there's gonna be a lot of houses they're gonna turn over in a significant year, and such that maybe what we're planning for isn't even big, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't necessarily expect it, but I know in Hills Corners, we have elderly, you know, high percentage, and I don't know it, but of elderly population. At some point, those homes are gonna turn over,
And there's so many houses for sale right now and going through different, I mean,
And my original premise of putting it off being that we would need it if we chose, if the community chose to go with something to do with the elementary school, with Kitts Point being taken into account, then we do need to do it now, or soon. And then we do it.
Dr. Oates, what do you think?
Historically, some of you principals that have been around a little bit longer than I have in the district, did we ever do a census applied study like this in the past?
And I agree with Lori with the 220 or the open enrollment, and we can always adjust accordingly if we have more residents. We have been using some of that for classroom sizes and so forth and programming rationale. So it would be good data for us to have. And both of us came from districts that did this.
Okay.
And we've been wanting this since we've been here, just to give us a little bit more data.
I think it would help for K-4 recruitment too, because we have no way of, we just blindly recruit in the sense of, you know, well, blindly recruit.
I mean, our program is popular enough now, most people know about it, but for a while when we were first starting, I don't think we were getting all of it we could have.
Okay.
Maybe just to bring some simplicity to the, did I cut somebody off? I'm sorry. Some simplicity to the discussion. I can do this through our open enrollment end of it, just to make sure that we're on the right track with that, and do it so that you guys get the information in a timely manner. It's, you know, which pot it's coming from is kind of irrelevant then at that point.
You can do the trends and bursts and the migrations and all that kind of stuff? in the
Well, in
economic-
other words,
you
I
wanna
will do
okay,
this.
yeah.
We haven't had this
we'll
discussion
invest in
with
this.
my,
We'll do this.
I haven't had this discussion with my
Okay.
principals, and you know, if they say they find it would be helpful for their K-4 projections,
Okay, let's do
I
it.
typically, as the administrator would, if they told me that, I would have just done it and not brought it to the board even, because I don't have to yet. You know, it's just one of those things that we do. And if it would be beneficial if it was just on this, I tend to agree with what Quinn was saying, you know, just wait till we get the survey back. However, you know, when we have people like Kit in the audience, and then the principals add that as well, I'll just do it through the 220 and open enrollment part of it, and then we'll have the information no matter what.
Okay. Everyone okay with that now? We'll move it forward.
No, I'm glad that you guys brought that up, because
Yeah,
I wouldn't have spent it.
okay. We'll move forward with the applied population study. Next is the survey. Review of the community-wide facility search. Thank you to everyone who worked on this. I saw all the drafts. I'm like, holy cow, but that's the way it goes. And I'm sure we will have a couple of more questions. Now, that's what I wanted to clarify before we start, because we have to vote on this tonight, so we do have to wordsmith, don't we? Which is why whoever's got the most money on the longest meeting is probably going to win. But we do have to vote on this, correct? Do we have to formally approve it, or is this just
It would
a?
be preferred if you did, yes, because if we send it out, if we don't approve it till next week.
No, the question not is waiting a week, but do we have to actually approve it, or can we just give you feedback and then you run with it? Do we have to approve it word for word?
No, you can just,
Yeah, so we give
can
you
just
the
say go
feedback
ahead.
and then you go with it, right?
Sure.
But we vote to do it tonight?
yes,
We have to
yes.
take
You vote to
action.
do the survey tonight.
Okay,
move
but the
forward,
wordsmithing is,
And then you
okay,
can say if,
okay,
you
super.
know, if somebody
Just
has
to give a
a,
little background.
Yes, please do.
This started right after that facilities and finance meeting over a month ago. I can't remember when that was. Myself, Bill Foster, school perceptions, Kit, Matt, the three principals in the room, and Dr. Holtz, and Mark, sorry Mark, didn't mean that. We've all been, and then Eileen got involved last week, and so we are on our 11th or 12th draft. I think it's misnumbered. I think we're at 12. just saying. We put in a lot of hours on this already, so I did ask if anyone had any feedback. I did not, just so you're aware, I didn't receive any feedback from anybody after the board packet went out Thursday. That's not to say that you won't have any, but I didn't get anything from Dr. Jones or Nancy, so we haven't had any feedback from anybody yet since it went out to you guys on Thursday. So.
All right. Thank you. So, we'll start with the cover letter. That looks good. Only question I had is, does it say in here, usually it'll say like this 15-minute survey. How long does this survey take? I mean, it looks to me like it's not very long.
10 minutes typically.
So you might want to put that in the cover letter somewhere. This 10-minute survey, we appreciate you digging it. That was my only feedback. Anyone else on the cover?
I don't know if it's here or somewhere else. Why do we only allow each household to have one?
We don't.
We don't.
You can request a second one, or
Yeah, but I mean, but why wouldn't we give each household 2 to begin with?
We don't know how many voters are.
Because we don't.
We don't?
Would have
I
to pay,
mean-
we'd have to pay for both of those to go out to everybody, and like
That was your
Eileen just
question.
said, we don't know if there's more than one voter in that household.
There's typically one male to every household, right? So in a household with 2 people, 2 voters, you get 1 copy.
There's one, did you say one male?
No,
One
male.
male.
Okay.
Male.
You said one male.
Male.
I'm thinking, well, okay, whatever.
It's the year 2000 and something or other.
I thought you guys were conservative, but okay.
So the theory is that the mailing, each mailing itself comes and it provides 1 opportunity. But we try to say if you have a second person in the household would also like to take, we can easily give you a code.
Okay. That's
All
my
right.
question.
That answers it. Okay, well, moving on to the rest of the survey.
Can I ask I have, just on this line real quick, can they make a copy and would we accept a copy of it? If somebody was sending a hard copy and didn't want to do it online. I know our preference is to get people to do this online, but if someone took the hard copy that was in the mail to them and they made a copy and the other person in the household did a copy.
That'd be a question I'd have to ask Bill, I guess.
we allow that?
I'm
Well,
not
each,
sure.
so one thing in this black box here, you see where it says kind of enter survey number. This is going to be a randomly generated digital code. So every single survey has its own unique code. So when you take this service, this is going to come to your home, Eileen, you're going to put the code, say you want to go take it online, you're going to submit that code number and it's going to lock that code. So then you fill this out and you submit it, it's also going to say, it's going to flag it. Because what happens when School Perceptions receives this is they use the code and then they manually enter it so it all merges. So they will know that the code has been used twice. If you've been called, if you call and say, I'd like to use another code, they'll give you a second code so that won't flag. But if you actually had someone with a hard copy that took it and photocopied it and wrote second household, I'm sure they would enter it.
Yes.
They're not
Give it a new
restrictive, they're
code.
not trying to be
Right.
But
non-inclusive.
I was just thinking of something else too, but in a way, each household only is responsible for 1 tax bill.
But there's 2 voters or more in every
Right.
household.
Yeah, that's true.
Couldn't
So
we
I
leave
think
some at
they
the
tend
library?
to be,
and We could put
my
some
experience
around.
with School Perceptions is they tend to be flexible to a reasonable amount, but if all of a sudden you see 6 or 8 of these coming in, and that's happened, they're gonna flag it and say, okay, we're only gonna take 2 of these folks or something, and not enter that because someone's trying to stuff it, they're trying
Right.
to manipulate it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And the date will be put into actual number date, will be where it's
We're waiting
highlighted?
for the final approval date that will generate, we're trying to make sure that the survey is open for approximately 3 weeks. So 2 weekends is the goal, and then an extension into the 3rd week. So your final approval and it going into printer they'll back that number up, but I know we're trying to get it closed before Thanksgiving. I think targeting November 24th or 25th.
And when are we targeting to go out?
Go out in early November.
Early November.
Yes, because it still has to go to the printer and get mailed and all those things, so.
It's scheduled to try and hit hopefully by like the 6th or the 7th, so
Okay.
after the election.
Oh,
So it won't get caught up in that clutter of the last push that our mailboxes will be filled with.
Right. Already filled with it.
All right.
The second page is just gathering some information on the demographics and getting some data as far as who is responding to the survey. This information, I think most of this information was used in a previous Whitnall survey. And again, it's just to gather some information as far as who's taking our survey.
The one question that looked awkward to me is how effective is the district's communication efforts worked? I thought that was awkward. Why are we putting that in there?
Because we're sending out a piece of communication to the entire district, and we're just gathering information as to how our communication efforts have been or can improve.
And as we think about communication effort that would be necessary if April was going to be in play,
That's
it
what
helps to have
I
more on
thought.
her.
I wanted to make sure. So we know how. Well, in general, when we're doing a survey, I like that kind of thing. But this one's so targeted to facilities, I wondered about those.
It's really an opportunity to try and gather that feedback so we know as you move forward what's the best way to reach people.
Okay.
We can sort the demographics. Parents want to get information this way.
Oh, I see it.
Seniors want to get information that way. It helps us sort and create a strong communications plan later.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Demographics? If not, we'll move into the next phase.
Third page is just a narrative of some of the big picture, the three main projects that we're taking a look at. And then it dives into the Hales Corners Elementary issues and problems that we face there that we are hoping to correct. So again, this is just a little bit of a narrative. We started out with the first question because it seemed to be a bit of a hot button topic at our facilities meetings. So we started with the first question, just gauging people's interest, whether or not it is important for them to maintain the school at the site in Hales Corners. So that might be might be the most important question that we ask because that is such a passionate type of question to get out of the way right away.
I just had a couple of suggestions on here. I thought that under planning background, address deferred maintenance, that we should stick with our language that shows up later where we say, and the energy efficiency upgrades. Because it isn't just maintenance, but address deferred maintenance and energy efficiency upgrades. Maintenance needs and energy efficiency upgrades needs. That would, right? That would be my suggestion because that's.
And he does like consistency when Bill does across all the areas, so that would be a good
language
catch.
consistent. And then, when you're talking about, it gets confusing later on in the survey to me when you talk about the swimming pool and then you put the HVAC under the pool because I thought that was a maintenance need. But that's not going to come up.
The reason why that's in there is because the new pool natatorium will require, or should require, new
its
air
own?
handling equipment, dehumidification equipment, exhaust. So the original equipment would be taken out as part of that cost.
Yeah, I thought maybe it's because of its location, but, well, anyway, that
And if you're
doesn't really come up here.
staying consistent, maybe we need to do the same thing with the pool and put pool, weight room, locker room.
Yeah, that's a little
Yeah.
bit brief because we're really looking
Yeah.
at a larger, not that I want to be long up front, but, okay.
No, but it's part of the scope.
Right.
Good headers to pick back up.
Yeah, maybe just look at the whole thing and make it a little more consistent, okay? So that, Hales Corners, then you ask this generic question about what you value. In the first paragraph, it doesn't say much about the smaller classes, classroom sizes. And it doesn't say anything about the optimal, it says, does not provide for optimal building security. It also does not provide for optimal learning. I didn't know if you wanted to add that in there.
So some reference to modern learning environments or outdated.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that captures all of our intentions. And one of our biggest struggles with Hales Corners Elementary are some of those options don't do that.
And, just to echo the applied population, we have, after reviewing enrollment projections, So that would kind of
We haven't really
indicate
done that yet, have
that we would have done that.
Oh, yeah, right? Well, we would have done that, but now we'll have it.
Right.
We do
But
do
it's,
that.
it's in line.
Yep.
Horse before the cart.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sure we can weave something in there to address the fact that the space is outdated and from a.
Right.
Well, you're talking about collaboration, flexibility,
Yeah, all
that
that.
stuff, all that good stuff.
And the size of the rooms being too small for the learning, teamwork, and all the stuff we like to do, right, in our schools. Okay. Moving on to the preliminary Hills Corners school options then. Does anyone have any suggestions here? You then go into the 3 different configurations, and then the questions are at the end. Is that how you're going to configure it, or would you put,
The theory is that we need to explain all the options first before they can, so they understand all of the variables before they start saying yes or no. Would they support or what else is being considered?
Yeah, you want them to have the opportunity to see all the options before they make up their mind on an option.
so it's possible they could answer yes, yes, yes to all 3 of these?
Yes, they can.
Yes,
Okay. Is that clear to everyone in the survey? Any other questions about
Well, do we
this?
want to address the possible payback from the property if we do?
Oh, yeah, that was a question I had. Do you want to put a bullet point in under one of these that says some sort of financial gain from the
could.
sale of the property, or do you want to stay away
It
from
would
that?
certainly be a potential. I mean, you're suggesting that we will be selling that for sure, or we would.
Well, I think it's very important to Hills Corners people that live close to the school, so that they know going in, that is our intention. If option C or B or whatever it is to go to middle school, that the district has no need for that property. And I think that's going to be.
You know, and that's a valid point. You know what, because we're all so familiar with this plan, that you're right, that would not necessarily be apparent to anybody outside the discussions here. So I think that, yeah, you're right, we do need to have
I
that.
guess the concern I have with that is, though, I don't know that that's ever been discussed, that that's exactly what this board is going to do, that they want to sell that. And this board is different in April, and the next April could be different, and maybe that board decides that they don't want to sell that.
But you have to say that
It's a
it could be a
possibility.
possibility.
I would say if when you're looking at the narrative, rather than working into a bullet, because we worked very hard to have 3 parallel bullets under each one, so
Okay.
it didn't look like we were swaying to one option or the other. We could look to maybe build that into the narrative there under building new Hales Corners. That's when you're talking about building a new
That's
addition,
correct.
sorry, the one above that. Just as in the 3rd option, we talk about what we would do. The old building would be demolished and turned into green space. We could add a bullet that was parallel that. If the building was chosen,
This
the
option.
district decided to retire this building, the board's intent would be to investigate demolition and/or selling the site. We could work it into the narrative there. so
Yeah, I
that
think
you're
that's something like
being-
that.
Am I clear?
Well, I thought it was,
It
Could
would
be in
be
the-
built into the second one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. And here's why. Because your lead-off question is, how important is it to you to maintain a school at the Hills Corners elementary location?
that's right.
And if you don't realize that that land could potentially be sold, that may change your answer to that question. So that portion of the narrative about the potential of the land being sold needs to be incorporated into the question of how important is it to you to maintain a school at the Hills Corners elementary location? Because that's going to be quite a deciding factor for some people, or could be at least.
Why? Why?
Because
What's your choice?
Because they live right across from it now, maybe they
Would you
like
rather
that,
have a
or-
school there, or would you rather have something else that you don't know what would go in?
So you like it to go back into the planning background section under
I'm not
that
understanding that.
option about Hales Corners?
Because some
I think people
people,
need to know that this is an option that is viable and reasonably thought of. And
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to figure out where it should go, but it should go somewhere.
Could you just do I like the word retiring the site. But Hales Corners Elementary, where right above how important is it to maintain a school. The first bullet point is renovate Hales Corners Elementary. The second one is build an elementary school addition at Whitnall Middle School,
Sell the current,
retiring current HCE.
I wouldn't retire, sell.
Well, I mean, whatever, I mean,
Sell.
He's
the
retired.
retirement
Again,
company.
I just want to caution, by saying that you're going to sell it,
We haven't decided
you
that.
haven't
Right.
decided that,
Right.
and nor
Yeah, we
has
can't really
a
hit
future
that.
board decided that, so.
Maybe we shouldn't even touch that at this
I
point.
mean, the only way you could do it would be to qualify to investigate the potential of demolition and or sale of sites, something like that. You could say those are things you'd investigate, but I would agree.
I like the
don't
way you,
commit to
I
them.
like exactly how you said it. I mean, and I think that's important to say, that
Demolition.
would investigate demolition.
Investigation is very good.
I think that was kids,
Okay,
and that's
investigate
great.
demolition.
And
It
sale.
may not have to be a
and
bullet
or, I
point.
think it's both, some
And sale,
cases.
yeah.
Investigate options including.
Yeah.
I like that. Then it
Yeah.
should be a narrative, not a bullet point, because it's not
Yeah, I
for
think we'll have
anything.
to talk a bit about Bill.
Yeah. The other thing
But
that I,
after, it could piggyback off of some people have questioned if the district should make any future investment.
I was
And
just
the
looking at
63rd.
that myself.
You find a way to blend it in to that, so it's one seamless thought.
Yep.
And people, just like they're questioning if the district should make any future, and discuss ways to investigate potential future of the property.
I also wondered under that first bullet point if you shouldn't add renovate Hales Corners Elementary to address all the needs, because that's what this plan does.
Mm. But if you look on the next page, they become the headings for each section. It mirrors.
Yeah, I think one of the versions we kept adding to these bullets and Bill kept
Oh.
striking it. So I think
Okay,
he was
that's fine.
for the.
But he
No,
probably
that's fine.
doesn't understand the background and the location of Hales Corners Elementary and how that the demolition and possible sale will be very important to some members. And and we, we want to be as transparent as possible when we're.
Okay, I think we've got it, then we'll work on this whole section, although I would question though, if even still, we should reinforce that in the second option narrative here. I don't think it's a bad thing to repeat.
I think you're right.
I think you could hit it in both spots, one to your point.
That's fine.
And then again here, just as we're kind of indicating on the building anew, what's gonna happen. I think we could indicate what would have, you'd investigate the same language, I think we do that in there.
Because we've had months to think about this. Someone's going to get the survey and have
See it for the
two
first time.
weeks to see it for the first time and have to think through all the things that we've already thought through and discussed. So,
And the two guys that came to the one meeting when we were in the auditorium, that was one of those things. I don't want a bunch of condos there. I bought into that there's gonna be a school here.
If we hear
Things
that
change,
enough,
things
then,
change too. I
Right.
mean, I get that, but that is a sentiment and it's real.
but he may not want to vote and then find out that he checked the wrong box. I want him to check the box knowing.
Oh, well.
well, the other question I had is build an elementary school addition at Whitnall to serve grades 2 through 5. I know you have to, as you read the paragraph, it might come clearer, but I think the headline doesn't make it clear that it's all Whitnall students in grades 2 through 5. You're looking at HCE elementary school options, and then that says that the 2
Serve
through
all
5.
students in grades 2 through 5?
I'm just asking the question, is it clear enough to everyone? For me, it seemed
In the narrative.
unclear, because you
In the
could
narrative.
assume.
Narrative, of course, it does.
The
The narrative
narrative does,
is.
but the headline makes it sound like it's just
Well, maybe you need
taking
some.
HC 2
Yeah.
through 5.
You're right.
And-
Maybe you do
Well, then
build.
take out
They can wordsmith it up later, maybe.
just take out to serve grades 2 through 5. Just keep it like you have at the page before, build an elementary school addition at Whitnall Middle School.
Why does it say
And
throw
but
in
you have to reconfigure.
reconfiguration is the key word that would be up
Right.
there. Build an elementary school addition at Whitnall Middle School and reconfigure.
We were just trying to get to the heart of it, which is who would serve it.
It's not much of a headline if we are writing a paragraph to explain
Right.
what's
With
coming
region
next.
figure.
So,
Well, you could strike
you might
the-
just
to serve- yeah.
clarify that. You don't have to do it tonight, but that
But we-
was just a
We
suggestion.
would want to get that
Yeah.
clarification.
Because Edgerton this is something like Edgerton families, maybe not thinking this is even going to affect them.
Right, and they
Because
may
they're
not
not at
even
Hales
read
Corners
this.
Elementary.
Right.
So, while it's very apparent to us, because
We've
we've
been
talked
studying.
about it,
Yeah.
I could see, now that I really think about it, somebody filling this out, especially somebody from Edgerton, may not catch that it could have, affect the configuration and what building they'll be driving to school.
Just wanted to clarify that the survey really is powerful for the board in informing your decision-making. Whoever takes the survey will actually get 2 chances to vote. One, when they do the survey, and 2, if a referendum comes forward, where you really then, off of the first survey, you narrow it down, and people might switch back and forth, and that's when you really put the information out and say, specifically, this is what we're talking about. Yes, you're gonna have a reconfiguration. I mean, you can,
Yeah, but it wouldn't help if I get this
Um,
back and find out people were confused.
this option
know.
require changing grade level configurations. That's
If-
pretty direct.
If people are confused, we could lose the
I guess,
confidence.
I'm gonna echo what Dr. Holt said. I mean,
Switch sensing.
it does say it right in the narrative, this option would require changing grade level configurations and would likely result in Edgerton Elementary serving 4-year-old kindergarten through 1st grades by having, and
We
I
could
like the
actually move that
reconfiguration
would be in the
to
bullet
first
point.
sentence. We could move that to the lead and then kind of ease into the scope, which is the classrooms. If the most important thing, I think there's 2 things. I think we can work something about reconfiguration into the header, and I think if we flip that second sentence to be the first sentence, that'll address it right off the bat. And then I think it'll help draw attention to that in 2 ways.
And are we not interested in making the point that this is a campus concept as opposed to
Yeah,
middle
there's
school
no
option?
language about that.
I'm sorry, where?
You're creating a campus.
Right, that this is the.
Well, we talked about that, and then we struggled a little bit with that because this, confused street is a through street. It's not just dedicated, right? Just 116th. Okay, whichever. You know what I'm talking about. We talked about that, and we thought that actually might confuse people into thinking we were
Right.
somehow closing 116th off. Because typically when we talk about a campus, you almost talk about a dedicated, like most schools that have a campus environment, our experience have one-way traffic flows and so we actually did, I remember talking about that.
Have you been to Marquette campus?
I was in Marquette next.
That's the name goes right down the middle.
Yeah.
But we're not thinking
Talking about
high
K-12
school, elementary.
Well, and I think you hit it in the 3rd bullet point, allow students and staff to walk between all schools for educational and recreational purposes.
Yeah.
right.
You hit that
We
home,
had
so
the
I know
word
they can
campus
get
in
it
here
to
a
me.
couple times. And we seem to be confusing ourselves, so.
Okay, anything else on these particular items? And then you put the questions.
Well, I know Bill felt that it was important before we even got into the tax impacts associating, to just say, okay, based on what you've learned, would you support any referendum at all? So
What do you
before we
think?
even ask you which option, that's why there's this question, under state law, voters would need to, do you support the concept of a referendum to address needs? That's what he felt was an important
Mhm.
question to test. And then, moving forward, if you took this online and you said no, you wouldn't even get this next question, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
I believe so.
Oh, why?
It's a branching question.
Well, I guess so, yeah.
You're
I
not
mean, because
supporting
it
it.
means you're not willing to support any tax dollars.
Right.
Okay.
What do we mean?
I can double check that, but I know that that's typical when he sets that up that way, but.
Oh, and then
But-
speaking of which, are they going to be able to go back and change on the online version, that they
Yeah.
can go to a prior screen and, you
Yeah,
know?
you can always go back, there's a nice big fat arrow, that says previous. If you go all the way through to submit, like any other one, you can.
But maybe if they saw the dollar amount, it might not be as scary as looking at $17 million, if you break it down to what it actually is.
Which they would hopefully have in their paper copy.
Right, so I mean, but I'm saying, yeah, that's true, they'll have the paper copy
Right?
in front of, okay, that's
Everyone
what,
will
They've
have
learned
yeah,
They've learned
okay.
from the online.
You're right, because you have the paper
That
copy.
the
I
most
was-
people read it and use the material, read it, the hard copy as the reference material, and then they go through the online survey and kind of reference it. They conducted some focus groups a few years ago to see how people were using it, because 10 years ago, school perceptions did only paper. And then they started doing online, and then they started doing one or the other, and then they realized their best response rates was both. And so they did some focus groups about that, and that's what people found, that they were reading the paper copy first thoroughly, and then they were going and taking the survey online. So that's, but we could ask them not to branch it too. That's another thing. You know, if you don't want him, if you want, regardless of your answer to this question, you to give the second question. They could still click definitely no on all of them. You can answer multiple, each one differently.
Okay, good enough.
Well, we didn't give her guidance on that.
Any other,
We didn't answer, that was kind of a question. We didn't answer the question.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you want him to, do you want it to branch to this,
I
or
thought
do you
it
want it
wasn't
in there
going
no
to.
matter how you answer the question?
We can ask them to do one or the other. If the person answers no to that first question, that they would not support a referendum, we can have them either, that other question pop up or not pop up, and we're asking.
I say not pop up, but, yeah.
The one that's underneath
Yeah,
the
but the
box
thing that's-
comes up no matter what. If you would not support any project, what is the primary reason? That's an open field. So that'll come up.
But the paper copy is going to be coming in, and someone could say no on the paper copy, and then answer the yes question.
They probably will.
And they will, so why don't we just
Mark,
leave
mark,
it
mark,
pop
no,
up
no,
then?
no, all the way around. Just circling all the no's.
But they should have a, well, see, they could still answer
Because
definitely
they
no.
say still, I think it should pop up.
I do too, to be
Because, and I want them
consistent.
to see the dollars, because at some point, if we get more probably yeses that go to referendum, they might as well know what the dollars are gonna be, you know?
Yeah.
So,
It's hard to conceptualize what's going to happen to your taxes when someone just says, oh, by the way, we need 20 million.
and I think
That's why
breaking
we-
it
does that
down
mean?
to property value actually looks better than looking at 20 million, that's just my,
Right. So I'm fine if it shows up in both
We
places.
can have that, we can make that happen.
Okay? Jonathan,
So
you
yes.
okay?
Branch is gonna show up. Or not.
Yes, no, there's no branching, it's just yes.
There's no what?
No branch.
No branching.
It will-
Everyone
it will
will have
just show up.
access to all the questions.
Correct.
We,
Yes.
yes.
Is there a benefit to having the
No
tax
branch.
impact only on this stage and not
I thought
underneath
trees.
where the option is estimated to
You'd be
cost
hugging the
between
trees.
19 million and 21 million? Is
You
there
know,
a
I
way
actually
to?
asked that same question. Bill, would it be helpful to have it there?
Quinn was talking, I couldn't hear you.
Jonathan asked if we should have the tax impact
Cauliflower.
within the narratives of each option as well.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's adding a fourth bullet point or whatever it is under this option is estimated cost between 19 and 20 million and would blank blank, and then that fourth option could be the fourth bullet point representing an estimated over average annual whatever per year.
We could easily put it back in. We've done that before. I asked about that exact same thing.
And why did you not put it in then?
I think you just felt that it didn't need to be repeated twice, but if you do.
Who, Bill did?
Bill, yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought the last time when Eileen and I, the last session, that Lisa Weisen is the one who did the costing from Baird. I thought we were gonna put it under there for each one as well.
well, she was gonna give the number to fill
She's
in,
got the numbers.
and
it's
she's
filled
got the
into
number filled in the box,
Okay.
but then Jonathan's point
We
was,
could easily.
put it up there
exactly do what you
again.
Suggest make it the fourth bullet and everyone, so we repeat it.
I kinda like that idea.
Just so this ways people didn't say, oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
If they're reading through this, it would be great because it builds off of this option is estimated to cost between, and you're giving them the
We can have that.
application right there.
No problem. I think Bill was just trying to keep it tight, not copy tight, that's all. But this is your survey, so we can say, Bill, put it back in.
Okay, the Whitnall High School weight room, locker rooms. Now, this is the one that,
Did you,
We skipped the deferred
yeah, you
maintenance.
skipped the
though.
deferred
If there's any issues there.
maintenance of that.
Efficiency.
Page 6.
oh, I'm sorry.
Ooh, that would be.
Okay, this is, yeah. different. See, I like that, energy efficiency projects. I did have a question. It says upgrading classroom and outside lighting. Almost sounds like it's upgrading a classroom? I mean, what are we upgrading? It could sound like we're upgrading a lot.
Lighting within the classrooms, correct? So maybe we can put that if you're thinking of use upgrade classroom.
Updating, is it going?
Well, it was more a question of how many classrooms. I'm assuming it's classrooms that are around, so it's a small number of classrooms, not a large, not the whole school.
We're not
up-
updating classrooms, the lighting within the classroom.
The lighting
lighting.
within the classrooms.
It's all about
Classroom
lighting.
and outdoor lighting. classroom
Right,
lighting,
it's
outdoor.
two different things.
Right.
It isn't the lighting within the classroom.
Are we upgrading classrooms, or are we upgrading the lighting? It is all
lighting
about the
within the
lighting.
classroom.
Pardon?
Classroom lighting and outdoor lighting, it's this, we're,
Oh.
It's all about lighting. But no,
Oh,
but if
so
you
some
read
of
it
your
that
older
way,
people like me are gonna
I was
read
gonna say,
that
but if
wrong.
you read it that way, someone else is gonna read it that way.
Well, we could change it to upgrade.
No, you wouldn't probably need
Upgrading
to.
lighting in classrooms and exterior or something like that.
I don't, you don't
That
need
would-
to for
that
me,
would be
but.
good.
If you
I
read
didn't
it that
even
way,
get
someone
that.
else is.
Someone else
figuring
will,
out.
right.
Yeah, it's a good thing to clarify.
And here's where I thought we should mention the life of the boiler in the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You should put that that's a what? It says here, upgrade heating and control, where did I see it?
In the narrative.
Mechanical and plumbing systems that have exceeded their service life.
I'm not seeing that.
That's in the first
Bulletproof
bullet.
one.
first bullet.
Okay, yeah, but that number jumps out at me. How many years old is this? It's exceeded its service life by how many? I mean, I think
I
that,
think
that,
we had 20 years in the narrative.
and
Oh, up at the top of the narrative, let's see.
where,
That's
what
what he's doing.
narrative? Because it's
Of the
not in
top.
this paragraph right here.
First page.
I think you should repeat that, if we have space.
We just talked in the narrative about Hales Corners in particular, is that what
Right.
you mean?
I did not see us talk about the boilers in the rest of the district.
You want us to specifically mention the high school boilers?
It talks about
age?
HCE, I think.
Right. This is the rest of the district, and those boilers are what?
Whitnall, high school, and Edgerton specifically.
I think that narrative should be fixed to be painting more of a picture of how important those needs are. That those boilers are really 20 years past their life, and, you know, Matt, you know how to talk about that
Well,
stuff.
you know, sometimes using the word boiler is more easily identifiable by some.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you're confused by, are you talking about the last bullet or the first bullet? Mechanical
I think it should be in the
plumbing
narrative. I like, the bullets are fine.
See, I think what she's getting at, Kid, is if you, take the last sentence where it says, million in projects at Whitnall High School and Edgerton Elementary have been identified as the most urgent, comma, including upgrading of boilers which have exceeded their life expectancy by 20 years or something.
Yeah, the current situation includes whatever.
Because it does put that number, like,
That number
why
should be
this isn't
out
kind
there.
of, why we're we're
Right.
really talking about this now, and why we're not
Right.
putting this off, you know, another 5 years
You can't
or
even get
something.
parts for some of these things.
So including boilers that are more
We
than
make
X
it.
years.
We made them. Yeah, just add more of make the case there a little better in that narrative. The bullet points are fine.
Okay.
Would you
Other than the
support, so
classroom
just,
lighting.
yeah. Because what's odd to me is these important projects, and then you get to this last one, the weight room, locker rooms, and there's a ton of bullet points. It almost looks disproportionate to me. You know, that's a huge, lengthy part of the survey.
Well, one thing you could do is flip them and put the weight room pool next. And then have this, from a layout perspective, flow towards the end of the page.
Well, that would maybe you're ordering them in order of
Guess the question is-
numbers that way? Because the biggest chunk is the school HCE, and then the next chunk larger one would be the pool, and then the next one would be but still it's, yeah.
I think regardless of the order, this will get the most support, because it's the lowest number and need that they can easily identify.
Yeah,
My house needs new boiler, roof.
And
So I
if you
don't
want,
think
I
moving it
don't,
behind the pool
would matter. And that's not really what I thought. I just wondered why the pool and the weight room has so many bullet points.
I think I think the conversation centered around trying to make sure people understood what the problem with the pool is. Because pool doesn't sound as urgent as a roof or a boiler
And it's
under any
not.
circumstance, so.
No, it's well done. And I'm
I
fine
think
with
that's
it.
why we gave it more real estate, if that mattered.
But
Do we address the high school air conditioning? Or is that getting,
That would be within the deferred That would be in that deferred maintenance and
Heating
energy.
system.
I can guarantee you that you're gonna get a lot of comments.
in there.
Put
Because
that
it's
in
not,
there,
because it's
that's a
gonna
good
get
point.
comments saying, is this included, why aren't we doing that? Because it's a hot,
So bullet point.
Multiple.
Air conditioning, the main gymnasium.
to include, one of your bullet points there.
Yep, and then put some narrative in there.
So you don't want air conditioning, you want air conditioning specifically called out?
Yeah.
We've got
Yep.
complaints.
Could they
every
just
year,
change
I
it from,
think.
just do heating/cooling, or heating and cooling systems?
As long as you got
I
high
would say
school
including
air
high-
conditioning included, I don't care how you word it,
Yeah.
as long as that's in there.
High
That's a good-
school gymnasium, air conditioning specific.
Yeah, and that's a safety issue in terms, it's not just graduation, that's when we get complaints, but the idea that the safety of the sweat in that gym, I know it's not that
That's the way to pull the
many
moisture out.
times
Mhm.
Yeah.
of years, and I
Floors.
don't know how important that is to the conversation, but, I mean, if I was a taxpayer, I'm not gonna pay for air conditioning unless you make it a safety issue for me. How is that a safety issue, who cares
So
about
you're asking
graduation
If
Monday?
you include something about the air conditioning in the gym, to also include something about why we need it? Is that
I
what
think
you're
so,
asking?
don't you guys?
Well, it's true, if you didn't have a student here, and obviously, we're aware of the issues, whether it be something as simple as comfort at graduation, and to something as important as the safety issues when we were having with the volleyball and the basketball and the
And
floor.
just say that if we're struggling to find a safety issue for that maybe.
No, we're not, it's a
We're
safety
not,
issue
we know
for
it's safe,
public
but
and
but does the
school
public
events.
understand that?
That's
School
what I'm saying,
athletic.
the public has to understand what you're trying to communicate.
Right.
Right.
But it is a safety issue because it's used for public events and for athletics.
And athletic.
Athletic events. When I tell people that, it's not, they're like,
Community
what?
events.
Well, you could probably make the case that there's safety issues related to almost all of these, actually, lighting.
Indoor air quality.
Yes.
I mean, so I think you gotta be a little careful with what we pull out and highlight that way. There might be a way to talk about that in the narrative at a broader level.
But you're right, I mean, almost
That would be
anybody
good, though.
I've talked to about any of these things says, well, I hope somebody
Get that
finally
gym.
does something about the air conditioning in the gym. I
We're
don't think I've
gonna
ever
look
talked to
awful,
anybody that
I like to use other words, we're gonna look awful foolish if we go through this whole survey, ask for all this money, and do not anywhere mention the high school air conditioning. I'm telling you, put it in, let's stop this conversation, let's move on. I mean, come on.
But I like the idea of broader safety because this is about safety. And it's about energy efficiency. It's time.
We can put it in, right, Kid? I mean, it's not gonna be a
Specifically
problem.
the gym.
Yes.
Well, the only problem I
All
have
right.
with that, and I'm not saying it's not necessary, I'm not saying we wouldn't look a little silly if we didn't ask that question when we're talking about all this stuff. But in all the descriptions I've seen of the pool renovation and the weight room and the locker rooms, nowhere, ever, has it mentioned air conditioning for the gym.
No, it's going into
So we're
the-
changing the scope of that project.
No, it's going into the deferred maintenance and energy efficiency projects.
And it was already in there, it just wasn't mentioned.
That's
It
where.
is in there.
Yes. What was the number for diverting the chiller that we talked, was like
I
300?
just recently received a number from a second opinion from a second engineer. I can share the number today. It was about $170,000.
And so we have, at the very least, diverting the chiller option in here for the air conditioning.
That I
So-
thought we were thinking of as an operating issue, not necessarily as a capital improvement project.
Well, when it was 300 something, we were.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
we had quotes to actually put a chiller there, and now we're talking about just running piping to the unit, so it's significantly less. The only expensive cost that really increased that was all the carpentry work needed to get the piping from the east side of the school all the way over to the. And when I say carpentry work, I mean ceiling.
It'll be very interesting to see how they respond to that AC thing, because in a lot of communities, that's like the last thing you put in. So I'm really curious to see how that responds. You guys know your community.
Yeah, it's.
All right, we'll work it in.
Have you seen our athletic facilities? Yes.
Yes, I have.
This community has high standards.
Matt, is that the 300-ton air-cooled chiller that you're talking about diverting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
A simple one, just almost exactly what Jonathan said, upgrading heating and cooling systems and controls, improving classroom and gym ventilation. So you're not, I mean, you're putting the gym in there, you're saying the word cooling.
There you go.
And
Would that work? Yeah. That works, all right. Any other comments on the survey?
Might be too
Okay,
subtle.
or is it-
Pardon?
I like the word cooling better.
You guys can
whatever.
figure it
I mean,
out.
What makes you happy makes me happy, Matt.
Thanks, Jeff.
You wanna
I
make-
think the average person is gonna catch what you're talking about, though. That's the only problem.
Is it?
Certainly our parents will, I would think. Yeah, if anybody that sat
Well,
in the
they're gonna
graduation.
call us and say, now, so does this mean air conditioning in the gym or not? That's what they're gonna say, right? I mean, that's what,
So why would we wouldn't just say high school air conditioning?
Or put it in the narrative or
Just make it
something.
simple.
Okay, we got it.
They got it.
We got it in there.
All right, any other comments on the survey? If not, I would entertain a
Did we
motion.
talk about the pool, weight room,
We
whatever?
need to
Thank
discuss
I'm sorry.
You must be wanting to making some money.
I'm watching the dollars laying on the thing over there. No, I have no.
Doug, keep
See,
your
you guys
keep
in
both
the-
hands on it.
I did not.
but
What
I
you'll do
bet.
for $2.
Okay, back to the weight room. Okay, I'm sorry. Any comments on this? Seeing none, we'll.
Yeah.
Any comments on this? I actually thought it was fine, too. My only question was the HVAC, and that's been answered, so I think we're good. I thought you did this very well. Being the school my kids went to, which wasn't here, had the same issue, so it's pretty hard to describe that depth of the pool, and they can't go off the block. She did a pretty good job, I thought.
But do we don't talk about what it's gonna do to the wrestling room.
Just that it's gonna expand it.
It's not gonna expand the wrestling room, it's gonna,
Oh, the wrestling room. Okay, yeah, no, I'm
it's
sorry. I
gonna,
was thinking-
it's gonna take away from the wrestling room.
Make it a little smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd like that as a bullet point?
I don't know. It's it,
What are we doing, reconfiguring the wrestling room?
no, the viewing area is gonna go into the
Some of the rest.
wrestling room.
It's gonna make it smaller.
They, Mark, when you guys did the drawings, you paid it, I remember that discussion when we were going through the,
Yep. No, we accommodated all the required wrestling circles for practice. So the space, square footage wise, will be smaller, but I don't believe we're changing any of the amount of practice circles.
It's a very small demographic that is gonna be affected by this.
But I would
Also,
recommend that
that section of the building could use, it is, pretty older section of the building, so having a nicer wall in there, some padding on the walls, and making it look more like a formal wrestling room.
Yeah, new padding on the ground, that stuff is unbelievable.
Right,
All cracked up and,
Right. So
Full of
the
sweat.
Improvement up there is really.
so it's
I
gotta
would say
be.
it would be worth someone's time to talk to the wrestling coaches about that, what
Yes,
this plan means
yes.
to them, so they can communicate that to their people, well, just so that they understand it, so.
Well, that's true of all these plans and our parents. We really do need to have communication with even some of the other things we've talked about, with people that will be involved in all those decisions, so.
right, and just to say too, we have involved a lot of stakeholders. And the other options as well.
Any other comments on the pool options? Weight room, locker rooms, if not, thank you all for all your hard work on this survey. I think that's it then.
So back to one of your questions, do we have to approve this?
We do. We're just going to approve the use of this, yes.
survey.
The take possible action on a community-wide facilities survey, yes. So I would entertain a motion that we conduct a community-wide facilities survey.
So moved.
And moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Possible action on the school board academy date. We're just, came to my attention, thanks to Stephanie, that we always do a candidate training session. And so we're looking at some dates for that. You don't all have to attend that. But if you want to, we'll be letting you know. I don't want to talk about that tonight, but we're just letting you know that we'll be coming up with a date and letting you know in November, correct? We want to do that in November again.
Just work around finance and facilities. And
Yeah, we were talking about that,
Those
maybe
meetings.
tagging it, if that meeting starts at 6:30 or 6, we'll talk about
We
that.
we could set it, I usually set my meetings for 6:30, so if the academy is beforehand, that's fine.
We could do it, is a half an hour enough time,
Yeah.
6 to
I
6:30?
think so.
Because I think 5 is too early for potential candidates to come.
We can make that pretty efficient.
Or we could go 7:30.
I don't mind putting it before finance and facilities, because I think a half an hour would be enough to explain it, and if there's follow-up questions, that's fine.
Okay, sounds good. That's what we'll do then. At the November, which meeting? What date is that?
17th.
Is that too late? No, it's not.
No.
That gives us plenty of time to invite people. November 17th will be our academy at 6 o'clock PM. Thank you very much. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One. Don't forget to do your surveys if you haven't done it for the board academy, the school board annual review.
November
Eileen wins.
Board meeting.
Okay?
Eileen
Annual
wins.
review, did you do it yet?